Hakadosh Boker or Bekiim Bahalacha. Day 77, page 231, Halacha Yudchet. Standing up for Kaddish. Is it an obligation to stand up for Kaddish or not? If an individual was standing up when the Chazan began reciting Kaddish, he must not sit down while the Kaddish is being recited, but the rest of the congregation is seated, even if, right, everyone else is seated. He must remain standing until he answers the Minish Rabbi through the words of Damiran Be'alma. Okay? So that's a very important halakha. Look at number 403. Rav Yaakov Muelin, right? Rav Yaakov Muelin, citing the Rekem Moshe testified that when he was seated in the synagogue, he did not rise from his seat. When the cantor began reciting Kaddish Baruch Hu, if he was already standing, right? However, he remained standing until he finished Shemin and Shemin Abba. The Rekem Moshe commented that all the common custom is to rise from one's feet in all cases, and he added that Gaut Mordechai, right? The passage of the Talmud Yerushalmi saying that Eliezer said, when you answer Shemin and Shemin Abba or any other sacred thing, you have to stand up. See more on this about the source in the Chaim Le'olam Modai. Likewise, the Menachem Azariah Mifano, right? We have it over there, right? Menachem Azariah Mifano. That each time that someone is called up to the Torah and he says Baruch Hu Hashem V'urach, they must stand up to answer Baruch Hashem V'urach V'ved. He based this ruling on the Yerushalmi there. Nevertheless, Rav Chaim Vital cited, right, that according to the Rizal HaKadosh, he said he never stood up, whether it's a Min Shemer or anything else, and he argued that there's no such passage in the Yerushalmi. Rather, those words were added to a handwritten copy of the Talmud Yerushalmi, some scholar. They were after mistakenly printed, as if they were part of the original text. Okay? If someone was already standing when they began reciting Kaddish, he must remain standing until he completes his Shemin Abba. Is likely to occur when the Kaddish is recited after the repetition of the Amidah, right after the Torah is taken to the Hechal. In those circumstances, they remain standing, and this corresponds to the ruling of Rabbi Yaakov Muelin. Okay, so in practice, what do we do? So again, the custom of Sephardic Jews, he comes and he says, follows Arizal, which is to remain sitting while Kaddish is recited, unless one is already standing. And this is recorded in the Menishchai Kavchaim Alichot Olam. The custom of the Ashkenazi Jews is to stand up. Okay, whether it's Kaddish or Baruch Hu, right? As the Rekem Moshe brings it down, and that's also the Raman, the Mishnah Berurah. At what point can one sit down? So the words of the Ben Ishchai is that if you were caught standing when Kaddish began, right? So then you must remain standing until you complete the 28 words of Shemin Abba. This is likewise the ruling of Rav Ovadia Yosef, right? Apparently, once he completes this response, he may sit down, although they are still in the middle of half Kaddish. The Alei Das, this is for the Tunisians, they say that no, the custom is to remain standing until he completes the Chetzi Kaddish. He disagreed, however, with the stringent ruling of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and the Piskei Teshuvot that the people must remain standing until the end of the entire Kaddish. So therefore, it's basically a three-way machlok. According to the Ben Ishchai and the Rav Ovadia, after you answer Meni Shemin Abba, you could sit down. According to the Alei Das, until after the Chetzi Kaddish, and according to the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and the Piskei Teshuvot, until the end of the entire Kaddish. Moreover, if someone is standing up, notices that the Chazan is about to start Kaddish, it's incorrect for him to sit down, right, before Kaddish begins. If he would do that, it's obvious that he wishes to exempt himself from the obligation of standing up through Kaddish, and this is disrespectful. The majority of people don't do this. Majority of people, you look, and they're trying to jump down. They try like they plop down. Yeah, they they try to jump down. So basically, he says like this. First of all, let's speak about the Kaddish preceding the Amidah. The Shlomo Zalman Auerbach always stood up to listen to the Kaddish is before the Amidah, and the Rishon LeZion cited the Kiryat Chana David, deducing from the Rambam that the custom is to stand up for the Amidah only after the Chazan recited the Kaddish. Right? See more about this in Tefillah LeDavid in the glosses. Now, the Rishon LeZion noted that he often watches people rush to sit down when they realize that the cantor was about to recite Kaddish, and this did not please him. While discussing this ruling that if someone begins Amidah next to someone else who has been sitting down, that the person does not need to stand up, Imam Mordechai added that if the person has been standing, it's forbidden to rush to sit down before his neighbor begins Amidah. Since it's obvious, he says, since it's obvious that he's taking action just in order to exempt himself from standing. This behavior is belittling the importance of, he says this is belittling the importance of the prayers. Maran Rishon LeZion comes and he says that the ruling compared this ruling to Kaddish, suggesting that the same principle applies. He concluded, however, the one could argue that the two cases are not identical. Despite this disclaimer, Maran Rishon LeZion maintained his position that it is incorrect to rush to sit down just before the cantor begins Kaddish. As noted above, the practice of the Oziel was to remain standing for the Kaddish following the repetition of the Amidah, and for the Kaddish following the return of the scroll. So means basically after every single Chazarat Hashatz, he was always standing. Remember that, according to the Oziel. That's number one. Number two, also, it's wrong to jump to sit down. You don't know how many times I look around, and it's like a trigger. They're trigger happy. They're already, it's like, Mekadesh Shabbat. I could stop, they're already jumped down. You know, it's like, no, it's another half, it's another half a minute. Yeah. Although in both these cases, there's usually time to return to one's seat before the cantor begins. Apparently, the Oziel did not wish to belittle the importance of the Kaddish for rushing to seat. The Rishon LeZion did not rule that it's absolutely forbidden, but he definitely discouraged the practice of rushing to be seated. Right? That's very, very important. Nowadays, even children, I've seen teenagers, they come, they start sitting down. I tell them off. You know, some of them I don't even bother, but meaning that, so why? Why are they? No, but at the end of the day, a lot of Ashkenazim, they stand also for Chazarat Hashatz. It's a Doto Mizrach, or they just take the leniency of everyone. So they're not Moroccan, they're not this, they're not that, there's not that. I know, that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. It's they take whatever they want. The situation, right? The situation comes up often on Friday evening when the cantor concludes the blessing of Ben Sheva and he continues with the Kaddish. In some synagogues, the cantor purposely pauses to allow the congregation to take their seats before the Chazan starts. But according to the Rishon LeZion recommendation, however, the congregation should not sit down at this point. They should remain standing until after they respond, Amen Yishmer Abba, until Damiran Be'alma. So that's very, very important. Meaning they shouldn't pause and let people sit down. Start right away. When you answer Amen Yishmer Abba until Damiran Be'alma, now you could sit down. Number 19, Kaddish on Friday night. Before Friday night Sarvit. On Friday evening, the custom is to stand up while the Chazan says Kaddish and Baruch Hu at the start of Arvit. Since during those moments, the part of our souls called Ruach receives a boost in honor of the incoming Shabbat. Okay, so again, he's just bringing down different minagim about when, when to stand. So there is a concept to stand up for the Kaddish. Some people only do it during the Baruch Hu, but it's usually during the Baruch Hu that it happens. Yeah, you don't need to, because that wasn't the Moroccan custom. But if a person wants, technically, so it's by the Baruch Hu. And that's why, you will have some people, that they'll stand up for the Baruch Hu. Yeah? And Friday night only. Halacha number 20. The custom of Ashkenazim is to always stand up for Kaddish and Baruch Hu, right? If a Sephardic Jew is praying with Ashkenazim, an Ashkenazi congregation, it's recommended that he also stands up. Hello, we just told you. You're not reading. You're not listening. If a Sephardic Jew is praying with Ashkenazim, it is recommended that he stands up with the congregation at those times as well. Okay, 405. This is the ruling of the Rishon LeZion. Although the Or LeZion said that a Sephardic Jew must stand up to avoid transgression of Lot Godedu, the Rishon LeZion argued that it doesn't apply to our customs, as he explained in Chavedat. This instruction is for the Sephardic Jews to stand up along with congregation based on Talmudic teaching that one should always avoid displaying one's custom if they are unusual to others, since it's likely to spawn an argument. Which means there's a custom of community, do the custom of the community. Don't go to the Ashkenazim and Bechavana, I'm going to sit down. No, you're in an Ashkenazi community. They stand up, you stand up. You're in a Moroccan community, whatever they do, you do. You're in a Chalabi community, whatever they do, you do. Imagine right now, you're going to go to a Chalabi community, or not Chalabi, because Chalabi don't do it, but let's say Yerushalmi. And from the beginning of Mizmor Shino Meshvat, even from before, from Mizmor Le David, they turn around to the west, from the beginning, and they're standing. You think that's nice that they turn around? I'm going to sit in the back on the west, sit down and show everyone I'm just sitting, and I'll stand up when I want. It's disrespectful. The same thing. You always have to do like the community. So the Rishon LeZion was saying, right, that basically, right, what a person has to understand is that it's not because the Or LeZion wanted to pass him because of what to go to do. It's not because of what to go to do. Because the Rabbi argued on that. It's not because of what to go to do. But it's only derech eretz. You're not going to change from the minhag of the community. The entire community does one thing. You're not going to come. You're going to say, I want to do different. Right? And that's very, very important. So that is the 1 second. No, the Or LeZion said also, right? Because again, so according to the Rav, it's because of the prohibition of not showing that you're different. The Or LeZion added that if some of the regular members of Ashkenaz also remain seated, either because they are weak or because they follow that Izal, so then you could also, meaning that if there's going to be a large group that they're doing so So therefore also, meaning if you have it, that's fine, because then it becomes something that it's always doing that, you understand? But it's wrong that people are coming and they're imposing their minagim upon others. Okay, Halacha 21, and then we're going to be done. If the cantor has begun Kaddish while the congregation is sitting, and then he notices that some people have entered the synagogue, he should make an effort to recite the Kaddish without lengthy singing. The people who have just entered might feel uncomfortable standing up while everyone else is seating, and the lengthy singing would be a burden, right, than rather a pleasure. So therefore, obviously, he takes he's taking into account, right, that when people are coming in, right, all this depends, obviously, how they can actually pay attention, but it all depends. So then, just not to start taking too long in order that they feel uncomfortable.